back to my channel. This week I wanted to talk to you guys about a more serious topic, which is the new show that has kind of been buzzing around, 13 Reasons Why. Now I really wanted to wait and watch this show after I read the book because I have not, but I could not wait anymore. I wanted to watch it and I just could not withhold my curiosity. So I watched it. I pretty much started it one day, had to go to bed, and then finished it the next day. And the show is so well produced, and just like the actors and just the topic matter is so serious. The tone stays very serious. I've seen a lot of things about saying how this kind of like glamorizes what happens, and I don't think that at all. I mean, I guess there's some things put in for entertainment purposes, but as far as like glamorizing what happens to her, it's definitely not glamorous at all. If you don't know what this story is about, there's a girl named Hannah Baker who commits suicide, and she leaves behind a set of tapes for 13 reasons why she kills herself. And this show was just so... it really shows how you don't really know what someone else is going through. So like all these little things, like separately, may seem like little things. At least some of the beginning ones, but when you pile them all on top of one person at such a young, vulnerable age, I think they really are very impactful. As someone who works in a school with kids around these ages, for me, I think this like show and the book would be such a great tool for kids just to like know that they're not alone and that this solution is not a good solution. I think there are people that can influence your life to help pull you into a better place. I know as a teenager things are very hard, and even when I was a teenager, there were just like things that set you off that you don't, like you take so over the top. And not to say that she was being dramatic, because a lot of people throughout the show accused Hannah's character of being super dramatic and that she just needed to like chill out. And I just think that what happened to her was terrible and all the things, and there were so many times that people were around her that could have reached out and saw the signs that they just kept missing, which I think was really sad. And I think the hardest parts of watching this show were the things that really took her over the edge, because it's not one of those things where like you know what's happening and they kind of pan off what's happening. They show what's taking place, and I think those moments are the hardest to watch, but the most important that people really need to watch. And I think if kids watch these things, and if parents of kids these ages watch these things, I think that there would be such a better flow of communication between kids and their parents. And like this girl's parents, they were there, and yeah, there was some stuff going on with them, and they kind of were paying attention to her, but they weren't seeing what was happening to her. And I think if they just had taken the time, and maybe if, I don't know, I mean there's so many what if scenarios to kind of combat, like what if this happened, then maybe Hannah wouldn't and this wouldn't have happened. It's just all about situations. I think this day and age, like when I was in high school, we had MySpace. I think I got when I was in like 10th grade maybe, I don't really know when MySpace came out. But I had MySpace. We had texting, but we didn't have like the app store with all the different apps and stuff you can use these days. So like cyberbullying was a very new thing even then. And God, I can't even imagine what it's like these days with kids and the things that they say. But I remember things like people would say very offensive things to you online, but they wouldn't look you in the eye. Like they'd say something terrible to you, and then you'd see them at school the next day and they wouldn't even look your way. So people are very different behind a computer screen, which, I mean, this day and age, like trolling, we all know people are trolls. They say terrible things, and it's a terrible, terrible thing that people can hide behind their computers and say such terrible things that they would never in a million years say to your face. I think this show would be a great tool to show kids just how much words hurt and how much weight what you say to someone like that carries towards someone. Yeah, they tell you to shrug it off. They tell you, don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about the haters, all that stuff. And yeah, you shouldn't do any of those things. You should take what people say about you in a negative atmosphere with a grain of salt and move on. But I know it hits a lot of people a lot deeper, and especially with this show, all the things that happened to Hannah was like a domino effect, one thing after another, that just kept piling on top of her, and she didn't know how to deal with those things that were happening. And it just got to a point where she thought not living was a better alternative than living with what happened to her. Which is a terrible place for anyone to get to, because it's terrible. Like, what happened to her was terrible, and it was hard to watch. And I think it would have been, I really wish I had read this book sooner. I really wish I had read this book when I was in high school. I think it still would have been something that I would have been very interested in, the subject matter, as far as what happened and that kind of thing. Middle school and high school are not easy. They're not easy times in our lives. We're going through a lot of things. There's people judging you. You think they're judging you. You're trying to figure out who you are. And all of these things are just piled on top of you. Pressure from school, pressure from your parents, pressure from friends, trying to fit in. And it's just like all these things that happened are a domino effect that happen to make you feel some type of way. And my heart broke for Hannah and what happened to her and her situation. And especially, I don't want to spoil this for you guys, and if you haven't read it and you haven't watched it yet, you really need to. But what happened to her in the end is really heavy. I mean, not just the suicide, like we know she commits suicide, but what happens to her to really put her over that edge is like, it was hard to stomach watching that scene, and the scene that kind of led up to it for what happened to someone else. I think as someone who wants, like, I work in a school setting now, but one day I would love to have my own classroom and that kind of thing. And I think this, like, even though the subject matter of this topic is very heavy, I think it's something that really should be used in a school setting. Like, I mean, if this could help like one kid just to be like, hey, that's what happened to me, it could have been better, then I think that's a great thing. From a show standpoint, I'm really interested to see if there's going to be a second season. They left a lot of loose ends. They had Hannah, who killed herself, so we obviously know that she is gone, but there were still a lot of things in motion with the trial and the data they were collecting on what really happened to Hannah. And then there was another character who attempted to commit suicide. So I would really like to see where the show's gonna go and what's gonna happen. As someone who's older now, like reflecting on my teen years, like, they weren't always the best. They weren't fun. And being older now, I mean, life gets better. You're not always in that high school bubble. You're not always surrounded by shitty people who do shitty things. And it gets better. So if you're in a shitty place and you don't think life's worth living, just know that it gets better. There's so much more time to look forward to, and people who are so young that happens to, it's heartbreaking because they miss out on so much of life. There's so much life to live, and it just sucks. It really sucks that sometimes that they're brought to that point. And I don't really know a good way to end this video, except for you guys should really watch the show, and I'm going to read the book, and yeah. But if you guys like this video and you want to see more book, TV, movie, entertainment, whatever videos, please subscribe, and I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.